It started with petty fines, fake violations, empty threats. Then they showed up at my door, badges flashing, voices firm told me I was under arrest, said I had violated HOA regulations. What they didn't know, I'm a U.S. Marshal and they just tried to arrest. The wrong guy. Let me start from the beginning before we dive in. Let me know where you're watching from. Karen was the kind of person who thrived on control. She didn't just like rules, she lived for them. And when there weren't enough rules to enforce, she made them up. I should have known she'd be a problem the first time. I met her, but I had no idea just how far she'd go to try and control me. It started small, a letter in the mailbox. The envelope was crisp, the HOA logo stamped at the top in pretentious. Gold lettering, "Dear homeowner, you are required to register your property under the Oak Ridge HOA and comply with all community guidelines, including monthly dues and maintenance fees." I almost laughed. Required, that was funny, considering I had specifically chosen this property because it wasn't part of any HOA. If flipped to the second page, a fine $250 for failure to maintain property aesthetics. I glanced at my yard, freshly cut grass, a clean driveway, my truck parked neatly by the house. What exactly was I failing to maintain? I tossed the letter in the trash and moved on with my day. Then another letter arrived, and another. By the end of the week, my mailbox was stuffed with violation notices, $100 for unauthorized exterior modifications. Nothing had changed. $150 for excessive noise disturbances. I worked late shifts. I was barely home. $200 for failure to submit a landscaping plan. I didn't even know that was a thing. Karen wasn't just making up violations. She was testing me, seeing if I'd roll over and pay. I ignored every single notice. Then she changed tactics. I stepped outside one morning to find her standing in my driveway, clipboard in hand, watching. She didn't look away. When I met her eyes, she wanted me to know she was there. When I walked over, she made a show of checking her gold wristwatch, as if I had kept her waiting. "Oh, good," she said, smiling like a predator playing nice with its food. "I was hoping to catch you." I leaned against my truck, arms crossed. "Something you need?" "Karen," she flipped through her papers, plucked one out and held it up like a court summons. "I wanted to personally remind you about the outstanding violations on your property. I noticed you haven't submitted any payments yet." I barely glanced at the paper. "Karen, I'm not part of your HOA." Her smile didn't waver. "Well," she said sweetly, voice dipped in fake politeness, "Oak Ridge Estates has certain expectations for the surrounding properties. It's only fair that everyone contributes." I let out a short, humorless laugh. "Fair?" I shook my head. "Karen, let me make this real clear. I don't answer to you. You can stop stuffing my mailbox with this nonsense, because it's going straight in the trash for a fraction of a second." Her mask slipped, her grip tightened on the clipboard, her jaw clenched. Then just as fast, she smoothed it over with another manufactured smile. "Well," she said, adjusting her blazer, "I do hope you reconsider. You wouldn't want to make things difficult for yourself." I tilted my head. "That a threat?" She gave a light, breathy laugh. "Oh, not at all. Just a friendly reminder that this community values cooperation." I took a step forward. "And here's a reminder for you," I said, my voice dropping lower. "If I catch one more fake violation notice in my mailbox, I'll be filing a harassment complaint. You can play queen of the HOA all you want, but you don't have any authority over me." Her smile twitched then. Without another word, she turned on her heel and walked back down my driveway, her heels clicking against the pavement. I watched her go, shaking my head. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. The next morning, I stepped outside to find a pile of garbage dumped on my lawn a week later. My mailbox had been knocked over then. The whispers started, neighbors giving me sideways glances, muttering. When I walked by, at first I thought I was imagining it until I ran into Jim at the gas station. Jim was an old-timer, lived in the neighborhood for years, didn't talk much. But when he did, it was usually worth listening to. He gave me a sympathetic look as he filled up his truck. "Hope you get things sorted out soon," he said. I frowned. "Sorted out?" Jim sighed. "Karen's been telling people you've got legal trouble. Says you're one of those problem homeowners who tries to dodge responsibilities. Even mentioned Something. About a warrant. I blinked a warrant that was a new one. Jim shook his head. You know how she is. HOA politics. HOA politics. This wasn't politics. This was a full-blown smear campaign. And the next morning I got a letter marked, Final Notice from the Oak Ridge. HOA legal department inside was a bold official-look statement. Failure to comply with HOA policies will result in legal action. Please be advised that a warrant has been issued for your continued refusal to adhere to community guidelines. I stared at the page for a long second. Then I laughed, a deep, genuine laugh. Karen had finally lost her damn mind. She actually thought she could scare me with a fake warrant, and that's when I realized she wasn't going to stop. She was pushing harder, escalating, and the next time she tried something she was going to regret it. Because what Karen didn't know, she had just picked a fight. With the U.S. Marshals, Karen's petty fines and fake violations were one thing, but when I got a letter claiming there was a warrant for my arrest, that's when I knew she was getting desperate. I held the paper up to the light, turning it over in my hands. The formatting looked official. The wording sounded serious, but I had seen real warrants before I had signed off on real arrest orders. And this was laughable for starters. No agency was listed. A real warrant would have come from a judge, not some fictional. Oak Ridge HOA legal department. There was no badge number. No legal case reference, and the signature at the bottom, Karen Whitmore. HOA president. I nearly choked on my coffee. Karen actually thought she could scare me into submission by pretending she had the power to arrest me. I was almost impressed by the sheer delusion, almost. I tossed the letter onto my desk and sat back, fingers steepled. Karen had just escalated. She had moved past HOA harassment and straight into legal fraud. I could have called her out immediately, could have sent her a cease and desist. But why do that when I could let her dig an even deeper hole? So I didn't. React, I didn't storm down to her house. I didn't. Confront her instead. I waited, and sure enough, Karen took the bait. The next morning I woke up to a red warning notice taped to my door. Final warning: failure to pay outstanding fines will result in arrest. I snorted. Karen was really committing to the ACT. I left the notice exactly where it was and went to work. By the time I got home, there was another one, and the next day, 2 more. Karen wanted to make sure I saw them. She wanted me to think I was one step away from being dragged out in cuffs. She had no idea that was never going to happen. Then on Friday morning, I stepped outside and found 2 men standing in my driveway, matting uniforms, clipboards in hand, and cheap plastic badges clipped to their belts. I stared. They stared back. Then one of them cleared his throat. "Are you the homeowner?" I folded my arms. "Who's asking?" The taller one straightened his shoulders. "We're with the Homeowners Association Enforcement Division. We're here to discuss your outstanding violations." I almost laughed. Homeowners Association Enforcement Division. Karen really hired fake cops. I tilted my head. Keeping my voice neutral, is that? So the second guy, shorter, stockier, trying too hard to look intimidating, nodded. "We have an active warrant for your arrest?" I raised an eyebrow. "You don't say," the taller one held up his clipboard. "Per HOA code violations, you've repeatedly failed to comply with community regulations and have outstanding fines. We're here to bring you in." I let the silence stretch. Then I smiled. "All right," I said. "Let's see the warrant." The short guy blinked. "You already got the notice?" No. I shook my head. "The real one. Show me the court-issued arrest warrant." Tall guy shifted on his feet. "Well, the HOA board issued it." "Oh, the HOA board." I nodded slowly. "And does the HOA have legal authority to issue arrests?" They both hesitated. I could practically see the gears in their heads turning, trying to fig out how to answer that without sounding like complete morons. I let them sweat for a moment longer. Then I sighed, reached into my back pocket, and pulled out my badge. Not a cheap plastic one, not something you could buy online, a real authentic U.S. Marshal badge. I held it up between two fingers, letting them get a good long look, and the moment they saw it, their faces turned white. I tilted my head. You two just attempted to detain a federal officer. Tall guy's mouth fell open short. Guy actually took a step back. I smiled, now I continued. I have two questions. First, where exactly is your authorization? To conduct arrests, silence. Second, would you like to be charged with impersonating law enforcement before or after I run your names? That was it. That was it. That was all it took. Tall goose clipboard hit the ground. Short guy turned and booked it down the street and me. I stood there, arms crossed, watching them scramble like cockroaches. I let them go because now I had them, and when I ran their names later that day, oh, I found so much more than I expected. Karen wasn't just running a fake security operation. She was running a full-blown extortion scheme, and she had no idea that I was about to burn it to the ground. Karen had crossed the line, fake fines, petty harassment. That was just the warm-up. Now she was trying to stage arrests, and she was too stupid or arrogant to realize she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. I ran the names of the two officers who had tried to arrest me, not real cops, not even licensed security. They were part of a phony private security firm. Karen had put together a bunch of rent-to-cops playing dress-up. But that wasn't the worst part. They had been pulling this scam on multiple homeowners, and somehow it had worked. I started digging through public complaints, legal,